very excited to have Hillary and Yana. Both speakers have incredible energy, so there will be really, really fun. I think high vibes today. They're here from Foundations Inc. I have a little bit of context on them for us, and then I'm going to pass it over, and they are just going to take us on a whole journey today. There's a lot of different things we're going to be able to cover together. So Yana here is our education specialist from Foundations Inc. She focuses on data analysis across the organization. And then Hillary Jones, who I met at Indiana Afterschool Network at a conference, serves as the director of professional learning. Both Yana and Hillary they provide training and technical assistance to different OST out of school time providers. They both hold multiple degrees, including masters as well. So very educated women. Yana has a background in science education. She's a former high school biology and chemistry teacher. She's also curriculum coordinator, so covers a lot of different ranges there. And she served as an out-of-school time summer camp teacher and leader. Over on Hillary's end, she was a teacher of Spanish, language arts, and literacy, and then before transitioning over into the after-school space now. So both are in OST and after school, and we can talk about any of those acronyms if helpful to anyone. Hillary was also a day camp supervisor, and she was an education manager. This is very cool, and senior program manager for the Salvation Army. And in that capacity, she provided support and professional development to staff at the local, regional, and national level. So I know I was looking over while I was reading a lot, but both of these women are just a powerhouse of information for us. They have different passion points they're going to be able to share. They're going to talk about recruiting and training staff, activity planning, partnerships, safety and well-being, and quality improvement. They also have free and low-cost resources that they'll be able to offer and provide to you guys. So if any of that is more or less interesting, please drop in the chat so that we can, or I will watch the chat and highlight for them that we want to focus on something maybe more or less. But with that, I will turn it over to Hillary and Yana. Thank you so much for joining us.
Chelsea, thank you for having us. We're pleased to be here today. And so we are hoping to get started by sharing 5 challenges that out-of-school time professionals face and some solutions, some tools, some resources. So we have a ton of things that we want to offer you that you can kind of take as a grab bag of resources on these 5 challenges. So recruiting and retaining staff, activity planning, partnerships, safety and well-being, and quality improvement. So let's get started. Chelsea gave us fabulous intros, but I do want to share a little bit about the work that we do at Foundation. So our work is dedicated to improving the quality of education for our nation's children, and we want to strengthen the skills of educators. And by educators, I mean each of you, because sometimes out-of-school professionals don't see themselves as educators, but you're investing in young people. And so whether that's social emotional investment, that's education. Whether that's around life skills, that's education, right? Whether it's around just creating safe spaces for children to learn and grow, you're educators. And so it's important to us, the work that all of you do. As Chelsea said, my name is Hillary Jones. I'm the Director of Professional Learning. And since we were chatting earlier, we talked a little bit about our work and our passions and the things that we get into. And so Chelsea said I should share a little bit about the work that I'm most passionate about. And really, I ran programs in a city that's under-resourced, underserved, and I still live in that city and care. My heart is for the young people and the families that live in that city. And so I would say to all of you, I care about young people who don't get the same opportunities as some of these more affluent and beautiful places. And so that's something I've been passionate about. And it's why I love the work that I get to do, because those are primarily the groups and communities that I get to invest in. So I'm going to pass it over to Yana. Talk a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Hillary, and thank you everyone for being here. And I'm a lifelong Philadelphian and have always lived and worked in Philadelphia, except for a brief sojourn. I'm sorry, that is my foster cat. He is very attention seeking, so you might see him walking right around a lot. Sorry about that. So I'm have been living and working in Philadelphia for my whole career, excluding, a brief sojourn in Indiana for grad school. And so I have sort of 2 passions of working in curriculum design, and I have a master's in curriculum design. So that's a big part of my work. And then also data analysis. And I also have a master's in statistics. So I kind of have 2 two branches of the work that I get to do and the work that I'm really passionate about doing with programs, with students, and with leaders.
So Yana, we're never going to apologize for animals because we love our living creatures and are so thankful for them. So we also got to chat about that a little bit in the first couple of minutes. Hey, look. But we do want to talk about these 5 challenges, right? The things I already said: recruiting and retaining staff, activity planning, partnerships, safety and well-being, and quality improvement. So I'm going to start with recruiting and retaining staff. And so as you get thinking about your staffing challenges, because I would suggest and suspect that all of you are having them. Raise your hand if you think you're not having them. But really, it's something that's facing programs across the nation, right? We're struggling with staffing. And so as we talk about this today, I want you to consider 2 questions. The first is, what does the workforce want? And so to effectively recruit staff, we need to target our promotions to meet the workforce's demands and desires that are going to vary based on some of these needs. And so I want you to be thinking about that. And then the second question is, what motivates the workforce, right? We need to consider what it is that energizes, that motivates these future employees that you are going to recruit, and what's so important to them so that they'll stay and stay engaged in your work. And so I want you to think about some key things that motivate, that we know from research, from what we're finding out about what's motivating people in our work. One is work-life balance, right? People want this clear line between work time and personal time. And if you're a nonprofit worker, I will tell you that work-life balance creep is real, right? Those of us who have run programs, we know we're getting the calls at all times of day and night. But I will say that if you're struggling to recruit and retain staff, take a look at your work-life balance. Second one is learning and development opportunities. So when staff have opportunities to grow, to develop through training, through coaching, through educational opportunities, there's potential for, number one, your programs to improve their quality, but number 2, for staff to become increasingly engaged and invested in within your organization. The next one is a sense of meaning in your work, right? It's rare to talk to someone in out of school time who doesn't say something like, I want to make a difference, or I love seeing my students grow. And using that passion as you recruit can help candidates identify the sense of meaning that comes from working in your work. So right now, drop in the chat for us. Why do you do this work? Why is it important to you? What's your sense of meaning? Why you're working on that? Number 4 is positive workplace culture. People want to work in places where they're treated with compassion and care, right? And sharing information about your workplace culture can be an effective recruitment tool, right? It's where you draw in others. It's where you say, like, this is who we are and why you want to be part of this team. And then the last one is salary and benefits. Now, I know that by saying that, many of you go, I don't have control over that. I can't pay anymore. My funding doesn't allow it, right? That there's no other resources. And if this is your control over, great. Consider looking at workforce compensation. We have a tool that we're going to share with you. I'm actually going to share a handout with you in the chat right now that has all of the resources for our session today. And I'd encourage you to grab it, grab the tools out of it, check them out, and find things that may be helpful to you. But one of the tools that I'm going to highlight is a workforce compensation tool. It's something that you can use as you're thinking about what is fair pay for the work in your area, in your industry, because sometimes we don't necessarily know that. But that said, oftentimes we don't have the ability to impact pay. We don't have the ability to pay more than we're currently paying. And I would encourage you, if that's you, to think about what other benefits you can give to your team, right? What other resources can you offer? Can you partner with somebody who can offer something to your staff, to your team? I'll give you an example. So we reached out to a company that did massages, and they were looking for an opportunity to do some giving back to the community. And they did massages for our staff on kind of a regular ongoing basis. And so think about ways to be creative around that and how you can use partners to do that. I saw partnerships come up again, and we will continue to flag partnerships as we go out throughout, but think about benefits in creative ways. Okay, so we're gonna take a quick poll. What I'm gonna have you do is grab your annotation tool. So you can do that by, if you see the green bar that says you are viewing Hillary Jones's screen, above that, you should see a little pencil that says annotate. If you don't see it there, then click the three dots that say more so you can get it. And you should be able to grab a stamp. That's the little checkbox, and it has either a heart or a star or whatever you like. I want you to take a vote. Okay, so here's the poll. Choose the top 2 priorities for you personally in choosing your workplace. Why do you choose the work that you do? Why do you do what you're doing? Okay. So grab your little tool, mark it off. We want to hear from you. If you're having trouble getting the annotation tool to work, it's okay. You can just drop your answers in the chat. But it's good for those of us who are hiring people, who are leaders in this work, who are facing these challenges of hiring people, to see what are the things that other people want in their work, because you can use that as you plan recruiting, right? So big bucket ones are that sense of meaning, salary and benefits, positive workplace culture. So be thinking about that as you plan how you're going to hire your staff. Okay, I'm going to clear off those drawings for us now as we keep going. The next thing I want you to think about as you recruit, as you retain staff is this. Consider what you can train staff to know and do, and what qualifications they must come to the position with. So to do this, we want to get you to think about things like the essential characteristics of a good candidate, right? And here are some potential essential characteristics. These are ones that are important to me when I'm hiring staff. So I want to hire staff who are mindful, right? Who are aware of students' needs, who can be aware of safety procedures, who can attune to what they're trained to focus on. I don't necessarily need them to come in knowing what my students' needs are or what those safety procedures are. I can train them on those things, but I need them to be aware of the things and be able to be aware of them while dealing with multiple demands. Okay, number 2 is listening. I need someone who's going to listen, who's going to build those positive relationships with students, and who's going to receive feedback from their supervisor. Next one for me is communication, right? I want them to be able to communicate clearly with other staff, with students, with families, with school day networks, with community partners, right? And this is an essential skill for me. One, I can't give up. If you're not a clear, strong, and effective communicator, you're not the right fit for me. Okay. I want somebody who's willing to be hands-on, who's going to get into the nitty-gritty with my students, right? To really jump in. And last, the belt is that I need them to be consistent. They need to be reliable, dedicated, show up to work, right? And that's how they're going to be able to build and maintain those relationships with students. So this is my list, but I'd encourage you to think about what are the things, the characteristics that you need staff to have when they come in. And focus your hiring on those things, because it's really easy when you're hiring for OST to get focused on, oh, well, this person has experience working with youth, or this person has this piece of paper, or this skill, or this talent. Let me say this. I sometimes have had much better hiring experiences with someone who has all these things on my gingerbread man than with somebody who's a trained teacher, because of how they come to the table, right? I've had better hiring experiences with somebody who's never worked a day in a formal setting with kids than somebody who's been working in it for 20 years, because they're mindful, they listen, they communicate well, they're hands-on, and they're consistent. Okay. So I'd encourage you to be creative, break out of the box, as you think about your hiring and know what you're looking for. Okay, so you can't just hire people, right? You can't just hire people. We have to pay attention to why our staff and students disengage. Okay. And our staff and students disengage, they leave jobs for several reasons. Number one, because they have a lack of purpose or meaning. We have to stay connected to the purpose of our work. When we get too into our tasks, into our work, it starts to feel meaningless or unimportant, right? That's number one. Number two, a loss of trust. When our staff stop trusting us, those of us who are in these leadership roles, when they don't believe that we're going to do what we said we're going to do, when they don't experience support from their leaders, they're going to disengage. And that's when they leave. And the last one is a lack of connection. We need staff to feel connected to the program, to the classroom, to the students, to the group. Okay. Sometimes in our workplace, this can seem unimportant, right? We got to get in, we got to do our assignments and keep on moving. But we have to keep that connection if we're going to be able to maintain staff. And so I hope you're beginning to think about staff. If you're having a turnover problem, staff who are leaving, I'd encourage you to think about what's missing. And I will offer to you that on that resource list, there's a section called What Good Leaders Do. If you're having that turnover problem, there are 12 strategies in that session that you can view the video, you can view the recording that you can use. But we're going to look at just one of them right now. So the first strategy, or one of the strategies, is be a resource, right? One of the most fundamental aspects of leadership is being a resource for staff, right? If our staff, if our students, they're going to learn and grow, you have to be present, right? I can be guilty of this. I can be guilty of going into my work to sit at my desk and focus on all the things I have to do and all the work I need to do, and never walk through my program space, never stand in a classroom, never talk to a kid in the hallway, never talk to a staff member the whole day long because I'm busy. I have meetings, I have to do all these things. Be intentional, be present. That makes you a resource, right? Answer questions that staff or students have, right? Our presence allows us to make sure that both physical resources, so that's supplies, that's who needs more Play-Doh or more markers in their classroom, or who's out of paper, as well as the resource of the knowledge and the skills and experiences they've had. Okay, here's one more thing good leaders do, is keep your promises, right? Let your yes be yes and let your no be no, right? Create that space where you do the most important things. And if you can't do it, if you don't have time, if you're going to get busy, it's okay to say, no, I can't do that for you. And you have to do that for yourself. But if you're having a problem with retaining staff, I would encourage you to take a look and be intentional about considering what it is that you need to do. Okay, that was the first of the 5 things. Yana's going to jump in because I took too much time and I talked too much. Thanks. So I talked too much, so I'm going to let Yana talk about activity planning. Evelyn, that's a phenomenal question. I'm going to come back to that at the end because we're going to take some time for Q&A, and I would love to talk about that more because I get into this stuff. Okay, Yana, you're up. Activity planning it is.
Thank you, Hillary. So as I mentioned, curriculum, activity planning, those are my home space. And then one of the things I'm most passionate about of thinking about what our work is, it's about educating children. It's about giving them all these meaningful opportunities that oftentimes they don't get during the school day. So there is generally not a lot of space for a whole focused animal therapy program during the school day. And the fact that Trisha is doing that is unbelievable and so cool. And Hillary and I are both like fangirling over that. But anyway, when we are thinking about designing activities, the thing that is there's a couple of things that are most important. So the first is multimodal learning. And what multimodal means is that we need to give kids information, access to information, to learning in a lot of different ways. So they need to have opportunities for tactile, for auditory, for visual, all the different kinds of modes of learning. And when students have access to all of those different modes, they're going to absorb that information so much more effectively because they've had an opportunity to interact with it in a lot of different ways, engage with it in really active ways. So anytime you are approaching a topic, approaching a learning priority from the school day, you want to make sure that students are really hitting that area in a lot of different ways, have a lot of different touch points. And the second thing I think is really important to emphasize is that learning should be fun, especially in the out of school time space. We are not the school day, and we want to make sure that there is a really clear definition of what it means to be in an out of school time program. It's not a continuation of sitting at your desk and taking notes. It's not a continuation of doing the same kinds of worksheets students are encountering during the school day. All of those things have a place, but the place is during the school day. Out of school time is a place where we can support all that learning that is happening during the school day, where we can take the time to really engage with those topics, but do it differently. Do it through play, do it through hands-on activities, do it through student-led exploration. So really making sure that out of school time has a different feel to it from the school day, because students have been in school all day for 6-7 hours. A lot of the time they come to our programs kind of tired. So we want to make sure that we're bringing the energy up, that we're giving them a feeling of difference, a feeling of growth. They're doing something new and cool. And we at Foundations have a lot of different tools to help you with that. As Chelsea mentioned, it's a combination of free and low cost resources. I'll point out one low cost resource to start with. We, as an organization, publish books, and some of our most popular books are the GraffitiWall series. The link to the GraffitiWall series was shared by Hillary earlier, but these are books with a lot of activities. They are grab and go activities that are designed to get kids out of their seats, writing on walls, essentially. That's where the graffiti wall term comes in. So the graffiti walls, what they are designed with in mind is activities that really facilitate interaction, that really facilitate student-led learning, that give young people an opportunity to discuss and to talk about really exciting and meaningful topics. Hillary shared that link again. I will also share with you all a direct link to the 3 graffiti walls that are for sale on Amazon. You can buy the ebooks. But they're really, again, about that student-led learning. And I think one of the best ways to show the graffiti walls is for us to do a graffiti wall together. So we are going to do one of our most fun graffiti walls. It's an acrostic activity. And really, this is where students are asked to fill in as an acrostic a certain topic. We made the topic, what are your top challenges in OST? You can make the topic anything you like. So you're definitely not limited by that, but we would love for you to take the annotation and use the text button to let us know what are your top challenges in OST. So use the first letter to start you off in this acrostic, and let's see if we can fill this whole thing in. So as an example, I added one for staffing. I see someone else has added in retention. So can we get all of these? I have another one that I want to add. I'm going to add time. We never have enough time in the day for things. If you have another thing to add, please do. Let's just take a couple of minutes to see if we can fill in this whole acrostic. So for G, we've got grade level reading, we've got burnout for a B. Can we fill this whole thing? Ooh, parents. Parents can be a challenge area for a lot of these. Because they might have expectations, they might have specific needs. And do you have that strong relationship to build? Partnerships. We've got a lot of P words. Administrative tasks. Hillary was talking about sometimes feeling like she's stuck at her desk. As a leader, you don't always feel like you have all the time to walk around and engage because there's a lot of paperwork that goes into working with young people. There's a lot of paperwork that goes into making sure that your program is running smoothly. Language barriers. If you're serving an ELL population, you might not have access to that language. You might not have the staff available. Evaluations for grants, definitely. Interactivity. Can you design a program, a unit plan that is really interactive, that really engages your students? Wellness, you want to be taking good care of your staff and you want to make sure that they have time. Making things hands-on. Okay, so we don't have anything for C yet. We don't have anything for J or K or F. M, N, and O are all available. I have one for Q because part of what I do is work on evaluation. And what we're working on right now are the quarterly reports, which are fun for me, but are a challenge for some of our programs getting all the documentation in that they need. Quality improvement, yes, definitely. Data tracking, fundraising, finances, absolutely. Social emotional learning, top priority. Cooperation. Okay, we are getting so close. I want to give us like another minute, see if we can fill this whole thing in.
Okay, so while you work on that, I'm just going to say that Yana said we want to get kids writing on the walls, and I don't think she meant literally. So I do just want to throw this out, like put it on a piece of chart paper. Did you know that dry erase markers work really great on windows? They also work on those desks that are made of, some of the desks at school, if somebody knows what they're made of, they're great to write on. Anything to get kids up and moving and doing something in fun, hands-on ways. So I do want to say she didn't literally mean to write on the walls.
Well, I did mean literally write on the walls, but I meant on chart paper. So I'm going with excitement. Or you can't, is that how you spell excitement?
The E's before it, obviously.
Well, but I put the E before. The formatting is a little funky dunky. Smart sheets with dry erase markers, yes. We are so close. Mentoring. Do you have great mentors for your students? Novice staff supports. When you have those beginning educators, do they have the skills they need? Do they have the support they need to really become master out of school time staffers? Think I think we're getting so close. Let's see. Observational. So are you doing observations? Or do you have time to do observations for your students' journeys? So one of the things that Hillary mentioned is making sure that there's opportunities for growth. So is there space for that? KPIs, again, making that connection that we want to measure what matters and making sure that we're really giving students a meaningful and positive learning experience. We are so close. Okay.
I got nothing, Yana. I got no more ideas. Zest
Ooh,
Bank
human web
the
meeting,
corn course. Okay.
online learning. That is definitely a chance. Okay, we need a why. Who's got a why? Zest to stay focused. Yes. Are people really invasive? Investment.
Ah.
Youth engagement. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Hillary, I snagged a photo of this for posterity. And thank you everyone for your participation. We appreciate you so much. Oh yeah. So that's a low cost resource. Here's a free resource that we offer. We developed, and Hillary did the lion's share of this, so I want to give her props because it's awesome. We developed a really cool curriculum for middle grade students. It's called So You Want to Be a Game Designer. And it is approximately 30 hours, but honestly, it could be way more than that. And it is a free curriculum for middle grades. So fourth through eighth grade approximately, but there's ways to adapt it to older or younger children. And this takes students through the process of developing their own video game. And it is a really cool interdisciplinary unit where students learn to code, of course, using some free online tools, but they also learn about developing their own character and illustration and really all the different pieces that go into a video game, creating a meaningful narrative, marketing their video game. So all these different pieces are embedded in that unit plan. And again, Hillary has shared the handout with the link to this. It is a free unit plan. We would love for you to download it, use it, and really make meaningful career engagement and career exploration activities for your students. We do offer a pretty detailed training on it of how to do it, how to expand it, and how to create your own unit plans as well. But you are welcome to just take the free version and run with it. Hillary has shared that tool again. It is a blast. Honestly, everyone who does both the training and uses the unit plan totally loves it. So not to toot our own horns, but it is a great resource. So if you haven't heard of game designers yet, it is something to download that tool, make sure you use it. And that is a really great interactive unit plan that's very hands-on that you and your staff don't really need to do anything outside of that unit plan. Everything is already prepared for you. So do be aware that like we have done the hard work for you. We've given you everything you need to know in order to implement that unit plan. So we do have that resource for you to grab and go. And that really leads us into the fact that we want to prioritize youth voice and choice. And there is a nice little graphic here showing the range of what student voice might look like in your organization. Now, if you are really not prioritizing student voice and choice and not taking the time to listen to what your students want and need, your program probably looks like compliance. Students are told what to do and then they go do it. The ideal scenario is they follow instructions. And sometimes compliance is really valuable when you have a fire drill or when there is something really specific that needs to happen. Kids just need to do as they're asked to do. But we want to create environments where it's not just kids are doing what they're told to do, where kids have an active role in creating that positive environment. So the middle ground is engagement, and that is where students are really actively involved. They're excited about what they're doing. They are having a great time. And you might be doing that by, some kind of student survey or really finding out, what kids are interested in, designing and to respond to that. But really the highest level of student voice and choice is empowerment. And that is where you take the step forward from kids are just engaged in the activities and the program that you design to kids are taking an active role in implementing, designing, and creating their own program. And that is really when we take that student voice and choice to the next level. of turning our students into leaders and supporting our students' leadership potential. And so when we're doing that, when we are really making our student voice and choice central priority of our organization, we can empower our students to help them think about themselves as decision makers. And for us as the adults involved to support them, to cheer them on, but make sure that they have a lot of those opportunities. They feel empowered. They feel like what they think and believe matters. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Hillary, and she's going to talk about partnerships, which popped up in our acrostic and is one of the top issues that we have identified as well.
And one that some of our audience said in the chat, like, this is what we need to hear. And so as you think about partnerships, I want you to think about three folds, right? I want you to think about families. I want you to think about volunteers. I want you to think about community partners. And I could probably think about 4 or 5 folds, but those are the 3 we're going to talk about right now today. I could do a whole nother session if I was thinking about school partnerships and some of those challenges. But here's what I want you to think about it. I want you to think about moving families from involved to engaged, right? Many of us, we hope in our programs that families are going to get involved, but this perspective is one that I'd say is pretty limited, and sometimes it's our barrier to family engagement. Because instead, we want families to engage. And when I say engage, I want them to be full, equal, and equitable partners in what we're doing. And so I want them to really have the opportunity to own and have ownership over the work, right? And to do that, one of the things that we have to do is reject this deficit view that our programs often have of families, right? Many times our programs, especially our programs who are working with students who are in need or at risk, see families as lacking what they need and therefore in need of what you have to offer instead of having something to offer to our programs. And so it's our responsibility as program leaders to remember that all parents have dreams for their children, right? These parents who are putting their kids in your program, they have dreams and things that they want for their children. They want what's best for their children. And our program staff, our work that we do, should be inspired by professional standards and personal conviction that we want to see students succeed. And so when we bring those two things together, that dream, that hope for the future, and then also the work that we do with intentionality and professionalism, that's when students' success is bolstered. When we, the parents, the teachers, the educators, the leaders of these programs, and our communities see young people as having potential for the future. And not a problem we have to solve, not just a program that we need to keep them off the streets or out of trouble, but that there's potential in them. And so I'd ask you to consider, and I'd say one of the things that you should consider when you think about families, do you consider families as co-workers in the development of your students, right? Do you include them in your program or planning teams? Do you include them in having conversations about what activities should be offered? Do you include them in conversations about how your program should be designed as a whole? And if you're not, invite them to the table, right? And that doesn't mean invite every single family to the table because you might never get something done, but invite some representatives, right? Include them as volunteers, as chaperones if you do a field trip, as hosts if you're having an event. Hire family members, hire those parents who bring their kids to your programs as staff, right? Sometimes that creates unique opportunities for staffing and engaging and ways to get them connected in that. One tool that I would offer you in this that's shared in that resource that I've dropped in the chat a few times is a toolkit that we call the Parent Succeeding Toolkit. It's free. It offers practical tools to strengthen family engagement. And it includes a 3-phase strategy to move parents to engage for student success. And so one of the things that I'd like to point out of it is included in it is a parent survey. And there's questions there that you can grab. You can use the questions as they are. You can reformat them, add questions that are important to you. But there's 13 questions that can help you identify what families want for your program, as well as what challenges families may be facing so that you can effectively engage and support them. Because effective family engagement leads to better student outcomes and stronger program supports. Okay, so that's one piece of partnership. But then I want to talk about other partnerships, and these are partnerships that have to do with school day partners, with community partners, with all these different partners that it takes to run our programs effectively, because we can't do it on our own, and we're not designed to. So Yana and I are both part of the 21st CCLC National Technical Assistance Team, and so we provide support to OST programs that have 21st CCLC grant funding. And we support these programs across the nation. And all of the resources that we offer through that network are free. They're completely customizable. But in those resources is an entire course on strategic partnerships. And I'd encourage you, if you're trying to think of resources, if you're trying to figure out how to improve the quality of your partnerships, or even how to approach a new partner, I'd encourage you to take that course, because it walks you through how to give the elevator speech, the 30-second pitch of what your organization does and how a potential partner can work with you on that. It gives you recommendations on how to build a strong partnership. It gives you sample memorandums of understandings that you can use as a template to write your own MOU with a potential partner, whether it's schools, whether it's not other nonprofits, if you're a nonprofit, whether it's a for-profit organization or corporation, but all of those can contribute to the work you're doing, right? It could be things like I shared earlier, I have a therapy dog, I volunteer and go to nonprofits, after-school programs, out-of-school spaces, since we're on this animal theme. And we partner with out-of-school time programs to do that. When I was running programs, we had corporations who would come in and provide food at family events. And they would come in, they'd bring the food, they serve the meals. And that was a wonderful resource for this, because many times funding sources don't allow you to buy food for family events, right? And so if you're somebody who's facing that as a challenge, think about what partnerships you can use. Many organizations, many businesses especially, have giving initiatives, things that they want to give to. And so it's important, check out their websites, see what they say is important to them, and then make that connection with what you're doing and how you're doing it. So that said, Yana is going to talk a little bit about safety and well-being.
Thanks, Hillary. And it's worth noting everything on Y for Y and NTAC is 100% free and 100% customizable. So everything there, we have spent hundreds of hours developing all those materials. Grab them, change them, put your own branding. Please do. Everything is free. So one of the things that we want to just mention, and we are running out of time, so we're not going to spend much time on this. But one of the things that is a priority for a lot of our programs is the safety and well-being of our children. Especially in the aftermath of COVID-19, so many of our students, first of all, a lot of them were doing virtual learning for a really long time. Some of them might have experienced losing a member of the family. They might have experienced housing insecurity. It was a really, really tough time, and many families have continued to face some of those struggles. So we want to think about how we can create environments that support students through those changes, through those pain points. And what that means, what we can prioritize, what we should prioritize as out-of-school time practitioners is creating environments where students feel supported and loved and listened to and cared about. And what those things can look like is focusing on creating really meaningful relationships between young people and adults, using things like restorative practices so that students feel heard and that when harm is done, it can be repaired. We have a lot of resources on those things as well, both from foundations and from NTAC. But really, again, we are prioritizing taking care of our students and taking care of our staff and families as well, because out of school time is not just about academics and those test scores and all of those pieces. It's about creating an environment where students feel welcome, students feel supported. It's an environment where they are learning and growing as a whole child. So we want to focus on that, emphasize that, and prioritize those meaningful relationships. And as we're doing that, really we want to connect to and think about quality improvement of how we're going to continue to improve the design of our organizations and the implementation. So I'm going to turn it over to Hillary to talk about that for just 2 seconds.
So I would encourage you this. Find some resources from whether it's from today, whether it's from other after school HQ webinars, whether it's from your state after school network, whether it's from a national resource like the 21st CCLC Technical Assistance Center. Find resources for training and technical assistance, right? It'll help with staff recruitment. It'll help with staff retention. It will help improve activity planning, right? It will help with all of these things. And that's why this is the 5th thing on our list, is that you need to invest in yourself and you need to invest in your team. And that's the thing that Yana and I are passionate about, that we love to do. Our work involves in-person and virtual training. And so if you're not signed up, we do regular webinars that are free, training and technical assistance that you can get support around. There are all kinds of topics that we cover. Grab them, go. We are often at conferences. Chelsea said that's how we met. And so that's how we share the work and the information that we're doing. But if you're looking for something more specific, we also do a lot of customized support. If you need an evaluator, if you're looking for some coaching, right? If you're looking for program content, please reach out. We'd love to talk to you. I'd also encourage you, if you're somebody who needs professional development opportunities, you are looking for a conference, this is my chance to give like the little pitch. We do have a national education conference. It's in February every year. The next one will be the 13th through the 16th in Orlando, Florida, but it's always summer warm. So please come. We would love to have you. But the last thing I'll say about quality improvement, about making your programs more effective, has to do with this. One of the most powerful things you can do is ask high quality questions, right? High quality questions and questions in general fall into kind of 4 categories, 4 quadrants. So we have open-ended questions that say something that there isn't just one answer to, that they really create that space for creative thinking, for more depth. And closed-ended questions, right? There's a right, there's a wrong answer. There's one singular solution. But there's also, if you are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy, there's these lower order questions, right? These are questions that share information, that repeat things that we know or that we want to know. But higher order questions are questions that allow for creativity, allow for spaces to think about things in different ways. And I would encourage you to be thinking about ways that you can ask open-ended, higher order questions. Ask them to your staff, ask them to us, ask them to people who are providing you training and technical assistance. Ask them everywhere you can, because those open-ended, higher order questions that promote that creative thinking, that's how your organization will learn and grow. That's how when you ask them to staff, they're pushed to go to the next level. That's how when you ask them of yourself, you'll improve the quality of your program. It's when you ask them to others that you create space. And so I'd encourage you, before we jump into Q&A, to be thinking about this as you think about what questions you want to ask Yana and I, because we're going to create some space for that. I have a couple, at least one question I want to go back to. But I say, what questions do you have? What other things can we share? We've tried to give you a bunch of strategies really quickly. I feel like we did a little information dump. Ask us some higher order open-ended questions because we'd love to answer them for you. I'm also gonna just pop our email addresses on the screen for you. Please shoot us an email if you don't get enough time to get things answered today. If you want to connect on something, Yana and I love to chat with people. We love to connect and share what we do. So that said, I want to go back to the question that Evelyn asked about how do you balance being present and then giving control to staff, and that challenge of, okay, when you're there, when you're on site, staff all of a sudden can't handle the problems, they can't speak to the parent, all of those things. So that said, my initial reaction, Evelyn, is one of the questions that I learned to ask staff that I knew were competent in doing those things, but would step back when I was there or wouldn't do it themselves, is I would say to them something like, when that situation's arising, I'm going to let you take the lead on this, but feel free to ask me if you have a question as you address it. Or, hey, do you think that, what do you need from me around this, right? How can I support you in this right now? And sometimes they would think about it and they'd say, oh, no, I got this. Like, well, I think we should do this, this, and this. And I say, okay, well, what do you need to do this, this, and this, right? And they'll be like, oh, I don't do those things, right? So that's one of my solutions is being present, but trying to pass it back to them, saying, what do you need? How can I support you in those places and spaces? Yana, do you have other ideas or things you're thinking about?
Hillary, as a general feedback, I was just looking through the comments and the discussion in the chat box. Can I change path? So I was looking in the comments and I was thinking about one of the things that we saw a mention is maintaining that zest to stay focused and on course. And that's something I'm thinking about that really ties into both creating boundaries and kind of self-care and staff well-being, because I think it is a lot easier for you to care about your job when you have breaks, and thinking about some of that, making sure that your staff have some of that work-life balance, have opportunities for work-life balance, and you as well. That's something that I think about and that I am trying to prioritize for myself as a professional, because I actually just got back from vacation and I feel so refreshed and like all of a sudden so much more excited about my work because I had a moment to step away from it to remember why I find it meaningful and I find it really rewarding. So I think that is something that I'm thinking about, of how do you maintain that zest of making sure your staff have time to step away, making sure that your staff have time to reflect on, well, why are you doing this work anyway? That's where we started at the beginning, that reflection, whether it's as a group or just having those question prompts for your staff to think about those things individually. That can be really rewarding and really something that reminds your staff that what we're doing really matters and is really meaningful for people. So that's something that I'm thinking about based on the discussion in the chat box. Sorry, I switched direction there.
No, I think that that's meaningful, Yana. Trisha asked about giving out badges at a certain point in learning and balancing like the consistency of, okay, here are the qualifications for this badge, right? And then the flip side of, how do you meet youth where they're at and encourage them to move forward? And I'd encourage you, Trisha, to think about badges in two different ways. One of, here are badges that have qualifications to accomplish with them, right? Like what you're talking about. But I'd also encourage you to think about, is it possible to have some badges that can be awarded for things that you want to acknowledge in students, right? So if you want to acknowledge, if you want to have perhaps a diligence recognition, right? You could have a badge around diligence, and anybody who's working towards something, even though maybe they haven't earned the canine communicator badge because they didn't meet these 5 things yet, but they're working diligently, acknowledge that. Or maybe you need a badge around, and you can name these something catchy that I'm not good at spinning catchy names off the top of my head, but you can think about what they are. But you could have an acknowledgement for somebody who brings cheer to your program space, right? They bring energy, they bring that support, they bring that care to your program space. And so, like, you could acknowledge somebody for that who maybe isn't the person who's got the most skills in something, right? But they come, they show up. Um, you have to be careful about attendance awards, but sometimes that's why people start acknowledging attendance, because it's that kid who shows up every day, even if they're not good at it, they're not the most fun kid to have around, they don't even seem like they care, but they're there, right? And acknowledging that. And so maybe attendance isn't the right choice for you because that can create other challenges, but think about those things. There could even be a staff acknowledgement, right? Something that you say, hey, our staff see this thing in you, whatever it is, and I'd encourage you to jump on that. So there's some ideas I have. I don't know. Does anybody else have other ideas that you're thinking for Trisha?
I did see Trisha give her thumbs up. I'm actually going to jump in. We're right about at time. We've got 1 minute left, so I'm going to go ahead and close us out. People come into these webinars from different spaces. So if you're not familiar with Afterschool HQ, we hosted this. I am going to drop a quick link in our chat where you can learn more about us. We do webinars like this once a month. We bring in people who focus on grant writing, evaluating, or strategical structure in this capacity, lots of different sorts of content. And you don't need to be formally affiliated with Afterschool HQ to jump on these webinars. Just connect with us and we'll make sure that you keep getting the emails. But we are an administrative support tool, like a technology tool. We help with check-in, check-out. We help with all the administrative tasks. And then we also help with parent communication, emails, text messages, all of that. We can take payments, all of the admin stuff. And then kind of like the last thing we're really, really passionate about is making sure that the information that you collect, you can then report out to funders and to donors. So that link in the chat there is to be able to book a meeting with one of our team members. My name is Chelsea Andrews. I'm the head of our engagement and partnerships department, and I will be having a copy of this whole recording and the attached resource go out usually it's within 24 hours. So we'll have that go out with anyone or to everyone. If you want to meet and just chat with me, we can do that. We have our team link there, but I hope to see people moving forward. I'm going to go ahead and have us end our recording. But if anybody did want to trickle on for just a moment or two, I have a minute to hold if anybody wanted to connect further. I'm not sure about our speakers, though.